chase you to the ends of the earth!
Hey everyone, and welcome back to News to Astonish, where we discuss comics, movies, games, and more into another amazing Marvel Spider-Man 2 video. My name is Ronnie, and today I'd like to talk to you about some news that just dropped regarding the gameplay changes we're going to be expecting to see in Marvel Spider-Man 2. Also, there's some rumors about black suits and how there's going to be different versions for every costume in Marvel Spider-Man 2. It's just crazy nonsense. Now, take all of this with a grain of salt. I mean, obviously, we're expecting some changes in gameplay in Marvel Spider-Man 2. I would hope so at the very least. Before I get started, I'd like you all to like, comment, subscribe, and click on the bell notification so y'all don't miss anything. I post videos every day, and I live stream on Tuesdays and Sundays from 8:30 to 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Please join my Discord. The invitation link is in the description box below, along with the links to my Twitter and Instagram. Without further ado, let's talk about these so-called changes we can probably expect to see in Marvel Spider-Man 2. Marvel Spider-Man 2 is a highly anticipated game. At least for me, it's the most highly anticipated game, a game I'm looking forward to the most in playing. I was actually scouring the internet trying to find any news about the game until I came across an interesting article talking about how the gameplay will be different in the sequel. Now, of course, take this with a huge grain of salt once again, because this is really coming from CBR. There are some comments in the article that just had me scratching my head for a bit, and trust me, I pointed out if I think it sounds kind of lame, but honestly, it caught my attention and I had to talk about it. So we'll just go ahead and read this article and then we will discuss. Marvel Spider-Man brought everyone's favorite wall crawler to the current generation of consoles, but the game took inspiration from a long history of Spider-Man titles. It was considered by many to be one of the best interpretations of the web swinging mechanic, but there is one mechanic that hasn't been explored yet. The costumes featured in the game offered different specials, but the costumes themselves were little more than cosmetic changes. Now, before I continue reading this article, I just want to go on and preface this by saying, if Insomniac Games were to implement some sort of web swinging mechanic for every Spider-Man costume in the game, first off, I would say that sounds like a lot of extra work. More power to Insomniac Games for pulling that off. And lastly, Insomniac Games is the greatest thing to happen since sliced bread. That statement about Spider-Man's costume being cosmetic changes is exactly what it sounds like. What else do you expect it to be? Way to go, CBR, for pointing out the obvious. Continuing on. However, a rumor has been circulating that could change, with early buzz being that all of Marvel Spider-Man 2's costumes will have a symbiotic version. While this can simply be a visual change, there is a chance it could be something much more. The symbiote has made an appearance in several different games, both as an enemy and as a costume. In most of the games, the symbiote offered some variety to the gameplay, and hopefully this will be the case in the newest title. You hear that, folks? A lot of you may be getting what you've wished for. I read a lot of your comments, if not all of them. A lot of you really want a symbiote version of whatever costume you're wearing in Marvel Spider-Man 2. Hey, I don't fault you for wishing something like that. I know I would love to see something like that. However, the pessimistic side of me believes that this is not going to happen. It sounds good on paper, but to apply different symbiote suits for over 50 plus, 60 plus costumes sounds like a ton of work. But hey, Insomniac Games is known for never sleeping because they're always working on a project in the back end. So who knows? Maybe it's in the realm of possibility, ladies and gentlemen. One of the first symbiote suit options was in the original Spider-Man on the PS1. The game had many different costumes options, and each one had a different effect on the gameplay. In the case of the symbiote suit, it allowed the players to have unlimited webbing, which allowed the player to continuously use Spider-Man's most effective attacks. This was one of the first instances of the costume changing the gameplay in Spider-Man games. Ah yes, the good old days of being already at full health.
I'm already at full health.
If you all watched my live streams around late last year, I was playing the classic PS1 Spider-Man game. One of the selectable suits was the black suit, and yes, a lot of these costumes offered perks or special abilities, if you will. The black suit being well known for granting the player unlimited webbing is a reference to the symbiote's actual ability when Peter Parker donned the black suit in the comics. But see, back then, the PS1 wasn't capable of implementing a bunch of mechanics. Nowadays, with the PS5's powerful hardware, implementing just cosmetics for a Spider-Man game is going to be a thing of the past. One of the games that changed things dramatically was 2008's Spider-Man's Web of Shadows. While other games made the costume an unlockable option, Spider-Man Web of Shadows made it integral to the gameplay and the plot. The story-focused Venom slowly infecting the people of New York City with symbiotes, which also infected Spider-Man. The costume was more focused on physical combat and allowed for brutal attacks. However, the suit was also used to represent the moral choices of the game, with the symbiote representing the darker choices Spider-Man can make. Guys, I know I said I was going to play and livestream Web of Shadows, one of my all-time favorite Spider-Man games. To this day, I just couldn't figure out the situation with the emulator. I couldn't get it to work. Anyways, sidetracking here, Web of Shadows changed the game for Spider-Man, and I think Insomniac Games is definitely going to borrow heavily from this game. There's a lot of expectations going into this, and from what it sounds like, with this very little knowledge that we have about this game, it's going to be massive thanks to Tony Todd, who told us a few months back, right after the teaser trailer for that bad boy that just dropped, that this game is going to be massive. It's a real vague statement, but when you think about it, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure all aspects of this game are going to make the game massive. Another interpretation of the symbiote character was in 2010's Shattered Dimensions. The Age featured 4 different versions of Spider-Man. Each character used vaguely different mechanics, but the most noticeable difference was the Ultimate Universe of Spider-Man. That version of Spider-Man was wearing the symbiote suit and had to fight against the violent instincts of the alien suit. However, he also made use of the suit's shape-shifting abilities, with his attacks making use of tentacles to hit his opponents instead of webbing used by the others. The symbiote has had several different applications over the years, and the same could be the case for Spider-Man 2. One of the most intriguing would be the implementation of the shape-shifting abilities of the suit. Spider-Man on the PS4 made use of gadgets that allowed the players to take out their opponents in a variety of different ways. It would be interesting to see these gadgets being formed out of the symbiote instead, and considerably more violent. For instance, the spider drone could instead be a small part of the suit that grapples and attacks the enemies rather than shooting them. So, in regards to the combat system, because I know some of you requested me to talk about this, as far as what button mashing techniques should be implemented in this game, I don't know, but I hope it's anything but me incessantly pressing the square button a million miles an hour. I wish we can have more of a complex combat system so we can see Spider-Man fighting with more style. Yes, the combat system is great in the first Marvel Spider-Man game, but as a Spidey fan, I just know that he's far more capable than what we got in the first game. And finally, we're expecting to see the symbiote have an effect on Spider-Man's personality and how he reacts to other characters like his loved ones and enemies. Maybe instead of quips, have him insult his enemies by using moderate vulgar language, you know, things you wouldn't hear Spider-Man actually say.
Shocker! You can't escape me! I'll chase you to the ends of the earth!
And even his allies like Miles Morales can comment on his actions, and having him not reciprocate and be all negative about it instead of being his usual optimistic self. Overall, the symbiote costume opens the doors to many possibilities and ideas. It definitely allows the developers to explore new ground. I hope we get to see more information regarding the validity of this rumor very soon, and we should probably be expecting new gameplay sometime in the middle of this year. And that's all I got for you today, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click on the bell notification so y'all don't miss anything, and I will see you all in the next comic panel.
Will one of you finally give me what I desire? Yes, we will.
PlayStation